3 years ago. 3 years ago. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm just adding in the graphics now. But you know what? It took a while, but we got here. What started off as a kid with a mic has turned into conversations with countless NFL reporters, with countless people, with some people who I have not even met in person, but they feel like friends. Why? Because we've made it to the 200th episode of YWC Football Talk. This is somewhere I never, ever, ever thought I was going to get to. And all things aside with today and what happened with the Pats, we'll get into that more on Wednesday with McGarvin. He will be back. The episode's been rescheduled. Him and I are going to talk about everything this coming Wednesday night where we kick off 201. Before tonight, it's special. Why? Because obviously the Pats game got flexed out. But in there goes the Commanders versus the Giants. And what happens every time that Daniel Jones plays in prime time? You bring the big guns. He ended 199. He's starting the 200 era. Big Rat, before we get into anything else, I'm going to say this. Your team, they impressed me last night. I'm going to go right to it. I feel like every time we do this, the last Danny Dimes Primetime episode featured Bills and Dolphins. I know you guys were on the losing end of things, but you guys held your own, and Tua was pretty good last night.
He was. That was statistically his best game in quote-unquote cold weather. And it was good to see because one of the narratives feels like every time the Dolphins do something good, people always move the goalposts. And from Dan Hansis from the NFL Network, who I think is a good analyst, but I think he's an idiot when it comes to the Dolphins because he's a big Jets fan. And he started the year by saying the Dolphins, they're beating these teams, but they're not scoring a lot of points because they only put up 19 against the Bills. They were scoring in the 20s. Those games that Tua was out, they only scored 16 on Sunday Night Football. And then the Dolphins ripped up multiple games where they were putting up 30, multiple games. And then it became, okay, but can this team really compete with elite teams on the road in the weather in December, which is like a very high bar. Go beat the Bills in December and score 30 plus. If you do that, you're going to win the Super Bowl. That's really fucking hard to do. The Dolphins came close, 29 points on the road in the elements. I think Colin Cowherd also said that, can this Dolphins offense do it in the cold? Can they do it in the adverse conditions? Does Tua have the arm to throw in adverse weather? All this dumb shit that was wrong. Again, like everything with the Dolphins. It was always wrong. It's not now proven right. It was wrong the whole time, but it's just nice to confirm that it was wrong. Nice to confirm, yes, the Dolphins can, in fact, go to a Super Bowl contender on the road in inclement weather. And the offense can still be elite, and that gives you hope for the playoffs. It was a good game. It hurt, though. Maybe not as bad as yours hurt, but mine hurt, too, in a different way.
And our guest on Thursday night, Greg, sent out a tweet. He DM'd me today saying that. He said, respect to the Dolphins. They played their asses off last night in a tough battle of championship caliber teams. I wasn't so sure, but the hashtag Bills Mafia versus hashtag Fins Up rivalry is back. So some high praise from a new good friend of the show. Like we said, obviously there's a lot of stuff that happened in the NFL this week that we'd like to get into. Obviously, I didn't get to watch the Bucs game with them apparently vomiting all over themselves. Yep. The goofiness of a comeback that happened in Minneapolis yesterday, where thank you for the +3.5 Colts. That was the thing I was saying when it got to overtime. I'm like, just cover lose by 3. What'd they do? They lost by 3. And I was like, thank you. Because yesterday I didn't post it, but my parlay was I took the over at 43.5. I mixed it with the Colts cover. I also took the Ravens on the money line because I saw a tweet from John Ewing from BetMGM saying the sportsbook needed the Ravens. Yeah, that was wrong too to do. That was a waste of money. And then today, I saw the sportsbook needed the Buccaneers. That didn't happen either. But all in all, this was a weird, wacky weekend of football, and we're not even done it yet. As Daniel, let's see if Danny Dimes can keep this lead or if he's also going to vomit all over himself.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. And I do love this. And I would be remiss to not say that it is an honor to be here on the 200th episode and also on a Danny Dimes Primetime game. It is, I know me and some of the other guests that have been on repeatedly, we just think it's really cool that we get to do this, that you've been very committed to keep the show up this long, and we really appreciate it. And we're very happy to be part of the YWC family and to keep it going as we watch. Hopefully, if Danny Dimes plays well enough, maybe not the last Danny Dimes Primetime game. Maybe we'll see. It's kind of up in the air. He is extension eligible, and I think. Oh yeah, wait. I think he's outright a free agent. Didn't they decline his option?
They did decline his 5th year, so yeah, he is a free agent. But here's the thing, though: if they make the playoffs, I'm just saying, if they make the playoffs,
yeah, and he did play well on that 2-minute drill drive. I was watching him perform there, so that was at least good to see. I'm also playing against Danny Dimes in fantasy football in the quarterfinals of one of my leagues, so I need him to do well, but not like too well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, no, it was a crazy weekend of football. I mean, I got my heart broken last night, but I watched all the games today and I had a really good time. And so far, this game's been fun. So yeah.
And one thing I'll say about the playoff race, and I'm going to say it, even though this team is good, who's the only team in the AFC East to not beat the Detroit Lions? Sorry, New York Jets. We just had to go there, Danny.
Our friend Danny also.
He has to stop going to Jets games. I'm sorry, but he's not seen them win once.
He put a pretty hefty bet on their money line too, and I can only imagine on that 4th and inches call. That's gotta fucking suck.
Oh my god. I still have to say this today, and even though I had money on them, before, because I also know there was something we're supposed to do on Thursday, but we did, and that's answer Izzy's question. I'm going to ask you this though: are the Jacksonville Jaguars good?
They might be the best team in the division. I think we are getting to that level. Here's what I think is going to happen. This is just my prediction.
Can I say something before you go on? A game that we thought was going to be a shitty December primetime game actually has a lot of implications now. So that Thursday night game is going to be something to watch.
Yeah, I think obviously as a Fins fan, I'm rooting hard for the Jaguars in that game. But what I think is going to end up happening is I think the Jets can maybe be resilient one last time at home, and Zach Wilson's probably going to start because Mike White's not going to be cleared in time. I think Florio said that on the Sunday night show. So I think a lot of people are going to be on the Jaguars because they're hot. They're winning a lot right now, right? And it's Zach Wilson. It's not Mike White. I think the Jets, with that defense, can have a resilient win at home. And then the Titans, and people are going to think, oh, the Titans got the division in hand because they play Houston next week. But I think what's going to happen is the Titans are going to lose to the Cowboys in 2 weeks. Yeah. And then that Week 18 game is probably going to be on Sunday Night Football. Titans-Jags for the division.
I also looked up right now at the betting line. Jacksonville opens at -1.5, so we'll see for where that goes. But you know what? That makes a very excellent point. That game could be in there because when I looked at Week 18, like I plan on doing with people like a just games like, hey, who could be Week 18 Sunday Night Football? I looked at like you guys against the Jets, Patriots against the Bills, Bengals, Ravens. But I think 2 of those 3 that I just said, those are probably what's going to fill Saturday night because last year the NFL kind of gave us a shitty Saturday slate Week 18 where it was like Denver, KC in a meaningless game that pretty much was – I'll never forget this. So obviously most people you know by now, and especially you, I was never a Vic Fangio guy past 2020. There was a play last year in that game with like 4 minutes to go and he decided to kick the field goal instead of deciding to go for a 4th down. And in that moment, I was like, okay, that's his job. That he's fired. He went conservatively. So I'm just saying this as an example where I don't want to see the NFL put Pittsburgh and Cleveland on a Saturday. No, I want 2 games with strong playoff implications. You have to put both AFC East games on that Saturday. Go right ahead so Sunday I can watch Red Zone. But at the same time, too, like Jacksonville, like that's the thing, too. Jacksonville, Tennessee, that's just – oh, man, that is just juicy, that Week 18 game.
It's juicy, and it probably doesn't – because, like, the problem with the other games is that if there's earlier results in the day, the game might not matter for certain teams. Like, it's very possible the Dolphins already clinch a playoff spot that day if they're on Sunday Night Football. And, the Jets need the game, but the Dolphins don't. And then the Jets get an unfair advantage because they're playing a team more inclined to rest starters because of the timing of the game. Whereas if they played earlier, that might not have been the case. So
what happened 2 years ago with the Eagles and the football team.
The football team. So I think Jags-Titans, if it goes how we think it's going to go, which is, I think like I said, I think the Jags lose on Thursday. The Titans lose to the Cowboys, and that game is for the division. But the other scenario, where the Jags won on Thursday, the Titans beat the Cowboys, that game is still for the division. Either way, both teams will be motivated to play their starters in that game, no matter what happens during the day, because they'll have a chance to get a whole playoff game out of it. So I think it's a good. That's why like they always. I think the Falcons are not going to make it because of their loss today and with Ritter. But those years where there's a bad division is always a good bet to put on Sunday Night Football because it has no implications anywhere else. It doesn't affect the wild card race. It doesn't affect, other teams. So I think it's a good bet.
Yeah, because when I look at the Buccaneers-Falcons game, like you have to think with the Buccaneers schedule. Okay, you have, which I know everyone was shitting on the Broncos and Rams and Christmas during the day, Christmas Day, but that Colt McCoy versus Tom Brady game at night is not something people are going to want to tune into. So you have the Buccaneers have that game. Also, too, I'm going to say this right now: Rams and
Broncos.
Rams and Chargers? Week 17. Do we flex that out, or do we keep that in Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, we should flex it out. I mean, I guess because it is the battle of the LA teams, that I think Baker Mayfield adds a little juice to the Rams because of how he played on that Thursday night game. But I would say the smart move is to probably flex it out, all things considered. And the Chargers are going to be on Monday Night Football anyways next week, which you can't flex out of. Not yet. You can next year, but
the only game I see on week 17 to flex in, potentially San Francisco Vegas, just for the rivalry aspect. Or there's a game in Foxborough between the Patriots and the Dolphins that you could very well put in there, because I look at all the other games and I'm like, Steelers, Ravens, no. Bears, Lions, no.
Seahawks, Jets could be an interesting one. That could be for a while. That could be for a wild card for both teams.
Yeah, and then I'm also looking at, because like even I look at the schedule too for the NFC South. Like I look at the Saints and I'm like, they go to Cleveland and then they go to Philly in the next 2 weeks, and I'm just like, the Saints have relatively never been a good cold weather team, even though they did win today. The Saints are 4-4 at home, but they're 1-5 away from the Dome. So that's where I still think, if I look at the Saints, I think that team finishes 7-10 or 6-11. I think maybe you steal against Cleveland, because Cleveland, even though yesterday, I'm sorry, I think that that I just look at that where I'm like, I don't know what to think of Cleveland still, even though they did get the win yesterday. I think if Lamar's healthy, they don't win. And plus, too, yesterday was a weird day for Justin Tucker. He usually doesn't miss that much.
Yeah, no, 2 missed kicks. And then the Ravens also had a terrible performance in the red zone. They got stopped on 4th and 1.
Yeah.
Hundley throws a pick in the red zone on 3rd down. And then I think there was another play where a Ravens player fumbled. I think it might have been not Demarcus Robinson, I think, fumbled at midfield or something like that. So the Ravens left a lot of points on the board in that game. They should have scored
a bad pick at some point.
Yeah, exactly. You can also put Bucks. Oh, sorry. Bucks Panthers, isn't that also week 17?
That is week 17, yes, because the Panthers play New Orleans week 18.
The Panthers control their own destiny. If they win out, they win the division because they play Tampa and they already beat them earlier in the year.
Do you think, regardless, though, Steve Wilkes has coached himself for a job next year, or do you think they'll go get someone else, even if say if they miss the playoffs? Say if they,
if they miss the playoffs, I would say it's a coin flip, because there was a report by someone from The Athletic, I forget who it was, who said that David Tepper, because they're probably going to draft a quarterback, David Tepper really wants an offensive-minded coach to work with his quarterback. And if you bring back Steve Wilkes, that's not what you're getting. And so I think if he wins the division, you kind of have to give it back to him, especially for turning that team around. But if they don't win the division, then I think it is. Oh, nice throw by Heineke there.
Ooh, I think nice. I'm a couple seconds behind.
Oh yeah. Oh my bad. I should have just.
All good. It's all good.
But yeah, if they don't win the division, then I think that I would lean against him coming back. But I think it's close.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I think, you know what, hey, if you get the division win, it's like, hey, you get this year. The one thing I'll say about coaches right now, I'm sorry, I know, especially if they lose out, I don't know how Arizona breaks by Cliff Kingsbury. I'm sorry, you're 4-10. You got your butts kicked by the Brett Rippin Broncos. I don't know if Colt McCoy got hurt today or not, but Trace McSorley played. Okay, so Colt McCoy went down. That's even the other thing next week, too. Do you want to see Tom Brady versus Trace McSorley? No. Will I watch it? Yes. But there's just so much with these games today. And even we haven't gotten the most wacky one, but we'll get into that in a sec. I'm even going down here. Great call on the spread on my end was Chicago plus 8.5. I just had a feeling it was good. The only thing I missed was the over there. I thought for sure that was going to be a shootout game, but I was wrong. Even today,
Eagles are getting a little lucky. Eagles, I think, are 4-0 in one-score games. I guess 4-1 if you count that Commanders game. So they've gotten some pretty fortunate bounces this year. I think they're due to lose one of these close games. I think they're losing next week. I believe Cowboys open as favorites. I think they're losing next week, and that'll probably be a one-score loss.
But that's the thing, though. If they do lose that game, everyone, that's going to be the biggest overreaction is, are the Eagles cooked? Are the Eagles done? I think if they do win out, they're going to lose a heartbreaker in the divisional round. Like when I think of the Eagles, and that's all you can think about with the Eagles is just heartbreaking playoff losses. Yes, they got their. You're really not. Oh, John, that's not. I wouldn't know. OPI is such a weird call.
Yeah, and it's nebulous. Like that, people are so selective about when they want to call it too. Like what counts as interference on a break, what counts as like route disruption. Like it's always inconsistent.
I don't agree with that call. Like that's like I could even say a lot of stuff. Like we'll get into me in a bit. I do want to. I do want to go though. Let's shift gears now. So you know how Randy said to me, a team that's surprised you and a team that's disappointed you. I'll start off with disappointed because mine's an easy answer. No, it's not the Broncos. It's the Colts. I was back on here in the summer saying that they're a dark horse for the Super Bowl. Matt Ryan's going to rejuvenate that team. Our favorite guy is going to take them all the way. I was so wrong about that. I was so wrong about the Indianapolis Colts. I don't know what you do if you're the Colts.
Yeah, no, they're in a tricky situation.
And he missed.
Wow, that's brutal. Looked like he missed cleanly too. It didn't even look like remarkably close.
It was not.
I would say it's a weird one because I thought they would have a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover, but when the defending champs are not just bad, but they are horrible, and they were bad before Stafford got hurt. I know that's now the convenient excuse. They lost their quarterback, cut them some slack. They were like 3-7 when he got hurt in that Saints game, and they were going to lose that Saints game anyways. I think the defending champs having the worst Super Bowl defense in NFL history, which I believe is what it is statistically. I believe someone did the math. Like Super Bowl champions have not made the playoffs before. Like the 2002 Bucks went 7-9 the next year, but this isn't 7.
The 02 Patriots as well.
The 02, the 01 Patriots to 2002, absolutely. But Aldi, like I think the Steelers, I think in 2008, they didn't make the playoffs the next year after winning the Santonio Holmes catch Super Bowl. They went like 8-8 or 9-7 or something like that.
And then they made the Super Bowl the next year.
Yeah, then they made the Super Bowl the year after. Yeah. But yeah, so we've seen Super Bowl champs have bad years. How often have we seen Super Bowl champs go 4-12 or 4-13? I guess in this day's NFL, and that's what it looks like the Rams are going to do based on the schedule.
That's what it does look like, though. But I did look at the spreads, by the way. A couple that I do like for next week is I want to take the Seahawks plus 10 against the Chiefs because I do like.
Chiefs didn't cover again. They again didn't cover the big spread. I know you had it, and then Greg talked you out of it, but they again.
He talked me back in. But I just looked at that game where I'm like, you know what, they're going to kick their ass. Like everyone's high on Houston, but then now it's like everyone's got that doubt where it's like, oh, can they cover? And I'm like, I have trust issues when it comes to the Chiefs with these big spreads. And plus, Seattle is playing for their lives on the playoff lives next week. By the way, Dallas did open at -1.5. By the way, for this coming Saturday. That's the other weird thing too. All the games are Saturday this week. There's 3 Sunday games.
3 Sunday games, including mine.
Yes, you're one of them. I'm even looking down here, but yeah, no, the Rams. Like when they lost week 1 to the Bills, I was like, okay, yeah, this is just more or less reassuring. Buffalo is it. Buffalo is that team.
Yeah, Buffalo's good enough. Yeah,
they're fine. There's nothing to worry about. They're good. But with the Rams, though, like injuries aside, I have a hot take. I do think there's a chance Sean McVay gets out this year. I think. Yeah,
there's a lot of you've heard rumblings about that.
Yeah.
I think what it really could happen is if Aaron Donald and then if Aaron Donald and Matt Stafford retire, and there's some rumblings about that too, I think McVay's gone. I think it was Albert Breer. Albert Breer said on the Rich Eisen show when they traded for. Or when they tried to trade for McCaffrey, apparently. They apparently offered like the same haul as the 49ers did. The one difference was that like the Niners offered a 2023 4th-round pick and the Rams offered a 2024 4th-round pick because they didn't have a 2023 4th-round pick. And that was the only difference in their offers. Their offers otherwise were exactly the same. And that was the small difference between getting McCaffrey and not getting McCaffrey. And I think it was kind of good for the Rams that they didn't do that trade because they need whatever little draft capital they have right now, given how problematic their team is.
Yeah.
Breer said on the Rich Eisen show that McVay is tied to Stafford and Aaron Donald. He thinks they're going to kind of decide as a unit whether to keep playing, whether to retire, et cetera, et cetera.
My other thing too with Aaron, not so much Aaron Donald, but with Matt Stafford, I think it's especially if his health is first, I think he's going to take that into effect as well. Plus the fact he can look too. Hey, I got my Super Bowl.
Yeah, what does he have to prove?
He's going to be a guy though, like Aaron Donald, obviously, like lock for Canton, even if he retires after this year. But Matt Stafford's going to be that guy I feel like a lot of people are going to have conversations about. But I think the Super Bowl does get him in. That's me.
Stafford?
Yeah, I think the Super Bowl. I think because of the Super Bowl, he gets in. But when you look at it, I completely agree with you on all three. Where it's like, yeah, like if one, it's gonna be like one of those ones. It's like where one domino falls, the other domino falls. Like you know how when Brady came back, Arians mysteriously stepped down 2.5 weeks later. It's gonna be like the same thing. It's like Stafford retires like the middle of March, and then like beginning of April, Donald leaves, and then like after the draft, like one of the other guys leave. It's gonna be like one of those like awkward, just like timed out perfectly. Maybe like a little bit off. Like maybe someone right after the season's done steps down, but then like how Peyton did, where it was like randomly a press conference in the middle of January at like 4 PM. But basically, because I think if they want a decision about that, they're probably going to talk to all three of them and say, "Oh snap!
Ooh, boy, are they calling him down?"
Danny Dimes going to Danny Dimes in primetime, baby.
Oh my God! Oh man! Oh man!
Oh, that's just horrible ball. Oh, is he down? I think he's down. Oh. I don't know.
Let me see. Where does the cheat?
Oh, he's down. He's down. He's down.
Yeah, that's coming back.
Yeah, it's coming back. He's good. But yeah, so I just think it's like one of those things like where it's like, you know what? Hey, we all got our ring. We're good. We're leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then with teams,
like one by one going down that way. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then you'll see something like Cooper Kupp ask for like an out or something like that, and then like they're kind of left with
Ramsey. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Jalen Ramsey too. But then when it comes to teams that you're surprised by in a good way, the team I want to say, even though it's tough and it's a bit of a toss-up, I kind of want to go with I'd want to go with the Jets, but at the same time too, I know Danny was hyping them up all off season and everything like that. Like, oh, this team's going to be this team's going to be that. I'm going with the Detroit Lions. The team that we thought wasn't going to be good. I was talking, it was my grandfather day. So that's the thing why this is recording between you. I was late because I had my family's Christmas today because obviously everyone's off doing their own thing next week. And with Detroit, I was just like, the team's not exactly good, but they've bought into the coach's philosophy and it's worked. Like when I say that, I'm not trying to dunk on them and say, oh, they're a horrible team. But when you look at them on paper, they have players, but they're not this team that like you're scared of. But out of nowhere, they went from being 1-4 or 1-5 to now being, I think they're 7-7.
The Lions, yeah, they are 7-7.
The Lions are 7-7. And if you look at the NFC wild card, they're literally a game back of the Giants. And who beat the Giants a month ago in their own stadium? And also, here's the other thing too: with the Lions, Panthers. That Lions Panthers game. That's a very good battle of the cats next Saturday for especially where both teams slay. But then they have the Bears, and then they have the Packers to finish off their season. So this is a Lions team that very well can get to 8 or 9 wins. Very well can. And I'll say this too. He makes the playoffs. I think you have to seriously consider Dan Campbell for Coach of the Year.
You should. And I think Aaron Glenn, I think, is going to be a guy that they look at for jobs soon. And I'll explain why. I know
Deuce Staley too.
Yeah, because he in New Orleans was hailed as a great, great, great coach because he cut the defensive backs. And New Orleans was just churning out stars at defensive back all the time with Lattimore or Marcus Williams or freaking Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, over and over and over again. They would just reproduce these really good cornerbacks or safeties. So that was his position. He coaches the Lions as a DC. Their defense is terrible last year. It's terrible the first half of this year, but it gets better and better as the season goes along. It's actually been pretty good the last couple of weeks, and it's actually like a very solid defense with very limited talent. Like they have some good pieces in the front seven, but their secondary is very, very thin. And to hold offenses to less than 20 points with the cornerbacks and the safeties they have, I think that's incredibly impressive. And I think him showing that he can get a defense with core talent to play well and also showing that he can get his unit to improve as the season goes along. I think that's what you look for in a head coach, because when he gets good talent, then the defense will actually be like great once there's actually great talent on the roster. So I don't know if it might be too early. We might be a year too early before it happens, but I would circle that name for like down the line
You,
for a coaching job.
you know what he could be? It could be like D'Amico Ryans, where someone interviews him, but then he decides to stay with Detroit for 2023, and then next year, say if Detroit has the same style defense, which, by the way, I know everyone says Sauce Gardner for defensive rookie of the year. You seriously have to put Aiden Hutchinson's name in there. He has really come on these last few weeks, and he's been playing really good football and living up to his draft hype status. But basically, if the Lions defense comes out next year and plays great, he'll be one of those guys you'll be hearing about all year. Like how D'Amico Ryan's name this year is, he's going to be a head coach next year. He's going to be this. He's going to be that. I think that's where the route where Aaron Glenn goes, because I think it's one of those things too where even, I'm sorry, if you're the Lions and if you have that Rams pick, do what your team did. Trade it for a golden goose haul. I know there's not exactly like a elite golden goose at quarterback this year, but someone's going to move up and pay. We've seen in the past before, like, look what the Rams did to get Jared Goff, what the Eagles did to get Carson Wentz. There's a team out there that is quarterback desperate, that's like lurking outside the top 10 that will make that jump to get up ahead. So if I'm Brad Holmes and you get an offer for that, keep Jared Goff, draft someone with your own pick, and then develop them. Because I still think next year you can get ahead with Jared Goff, but we'll see. We'll truly see what happens. But Detroit's been one of those teams where it's just everything's gone right. They're completely night and day from the team I saw in person week 5, where they were just making poor decision after poor decision. You and I think we're on here all off last offseason saying, you know what, Dan Campbell's a hot seat name, but I think regardless, he has job security for next year. But I think next year is that year where you look at where it's like Cliff last year, where it's, we want to see what you do next year. This year, we have to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and Ben Johnson's a good name because he's gonna, like, I don't know if he'll get a job right now, but it's certainly going to be close. Like, it's certainly going to be highly discussed. And that call on 4th and inches, when he calls that throw to, I think it was Brock Wright, but then scores a 50-yard touchdown. That was one of the most incredible. Like, because I was so mad when they faked it there, because it's like one of my hard beliefs. 4th and inches is a sneak, no matter what, no matter what, no matter what, no matter what. And to fake it, and to not even run the ball, but to fake it and then to actually throw a pass. When so many things could go wrong, the guy can drop the ball, the defensive lineman can tip the ball down, and then to not only get it, but to score a 50-yard touchdown because the defense isn't ready for a pass to that player in that situation. Like, they got a really good staff. They got a really, really good staff, and I think Dan Campbell is helped by that. If he can keep some of these guys, kind of like Mike McCarthy in Dallas, if you can keep the coordinators when they're supposed to be head coaches, that's how you can kind of keep continuity, and keep the system strong.
Exactly. And even still, like stuff like last week where your pass to ice the game is to your star right tackle. That's the other thing too, where it's just like, and even too, that was all Ben Johnson doing that. That was not Dan Campbell at all. He was like, wait, who are we throwing it to? And then Penei Sewell catches the ball wide open. So it's just one of those things where the Lions are open to taking risks, but it's one of those ones where it's like high risk, high reward. But right now they're reaping the benefits of high risk and just having the reward. So you know what? For all of that, I got to give them. You can't. They're no longer the doormat of the NFL. They're no longer that. It's Houston by a mile, but the Lions are a relative team again, and I think it's. You know what? It's good for the NFL in the sense that it is a marquee franchise because it's like the OG franchises. Like I know. Like the Giants right now are kind of in that mix. I know the Bears are the Bears, but when those teams are good, it's good for the league. It's like when the Dallas, like how everyone, I know we like to clown on the Cowboys, but it's like the same thing too. If the Cowboys can win a Super Bowl, it's good for the league.
It is. And it'd be, oh my God, if they're in the Super Bowl this year, that'd be like the most watched Super Bowl in NFL history. It would be. Like, just the game is bigger now. Television is bigger now. Like their Thanksgiving game last year or this year, I forget which, like set like a record, like for Thanksgiving viewership. So yeah, I think it like the eyeballs tell you the story.
Exactly. And so I have to go to you now. Who's your surprise team for 2022 so far?
Yeah, Lions are a good choice. I will definitely admit to being wrong on that, because not that I didn't think that one day they would be great, because I did believe in them, their offensive line and defensive line they built through the draft. I'm a big fan of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm a big fan of all their running backs that they have. So I definitely thought it was possible. Remember, they had Hawkinson at the start of the year too. I just thought that the defense wouldn't be this good this quickly. I thought I like, we've been around the block a lot in the NFL, and we see this a lot where these rebuilding teams, everyone's predicting like the second year surge. And usually what ends up happening is the team is still bad, and it's actually the third year where you actually start to see the progress. Like the Browns, Baker Mayfield's second year, There was a lot when they traded for Odell. There was a lot of hype around them. Like, oh, they finally got a quarterback. Like, it's year 2. Like,
I saw right through that. I said right away, I'm like, nope, they're going to miss the playoffs. And what happened? They missed the playoffs.
And way back in the day, this is a while ago, but like the first and second year of Blake Bortles in Jacksonville is a very similar story. People were thinking a second year. People before the 2015 season were predicting the Jags to make the playoffs. We're predicting them to make this big leap. And I just thought with the Lions, it's like, oh, I've seen this movie before. This is too much too soon. You were a year away from them being a playoff contender.
It's like Arizona too, going on getting D-Hop and Kyler's second year.
Exactly. Another great example. They didn't make the playoffs either. And they went under their win total, I think, or at least hit it. They only went 8-8.
They were good, and then I always say this about that season. That Buffalo game changed the trajectory of both teams. Because think about it. Buffalo loses that game, they go undefeated the rest of the way to the AFC Championship. Arizona won that game, and then from there, I know Kyler got hurt, but it went downhill for them very quickly. They lost a bad Thursday nighter in Seattle, and then they lost the game against us in New England where they made a lot of mental mistakes that cost them.
And so I was expecting the Lions to kind of do the same, too much too soon. But now I think they're legit. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs because of their losses early in the year, but I think they're a playoff quality team. I think they're better than the Giants and the Commanders, and they already beat both teams. So if they can just get the win-loss to align the right way, I think they can get in. So that is a good choice by you. And the only other name I could say, I could say the Jets, but I don't want to give Danny any more praise than he deserves. But that defense definitely was a lot better than I thought it would be. But
if I had to give it, I'm going to cut you off for a second. If I had to give a single unit I'm most surprised by, it's that how good their defense is.
Yes.
Quinn, I'll give my flowers to this. Quinn Williams is a stud in that defensive tackle position.
I would say, and he is. He's an absolute monster. I guess I'll say the Jaguars too, because that was another one where in the offseason there was a lot of hype around them, and I kind of thought the same thing. Like, no, too much too soon. They're not ready for that. They're not ready to be playoff contenders, etc.
Giving Christian Kirk way too much money.
And everyone trashed their free agency. Everyone said, "Oh my God, Trent Baalke's an idiot." They paid all these middling receivers big money. By the way, Zay Jones, who they killed for signing to a 3-year, $30 million contract, Zay Jones went off today, and he went off last week too. So Evan Ingram, right, a career resurgence he's having in Jacksonville these last couple of weeks. And Trevor Lawrence looks like Justin Herbert. Like, that's what he looks like right now. If you're listening to this and you love Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence is playing exactly as well as him, if not better, right now. And I didn't think it would happen this quickly because he was so raw last year. He looked so bad. I always believed in his future. I always believed one day he would be great. But I thought he was so bad last year. The Urban Meyer experience was so bad, it would just take more time. So to see them at 6-8, and I think they're going to make the playoffs. I do think they're going to win the AFC South because I think they're better than the Titans. I would say that is my biggest surprise.
I agree with you on that one just because, like you said, they've really come on the last few weeks because they're beating teams they have no business beating. They beat Baltimore. They beat the Cowboys. That's the thing. They beat the Cowboys. That's when I see the Cowboys and I think, oh, this is their year, they do stupid stuff like that, like losing to the Texans, barely beating the Texans, losing to the Jags, where I look at them and I'm like, okay, what are you doing, Dallas? But then even I go back and look at some other games too for them. Hanging in tough with the Kansas City Chiefs. They beat Vegas. But then, they have the 3 straight losses with the Giants game, even though they almost won. Denver, too, they almost won. But then even still, they were 2-1 at the beginning of the season. Remember, they beat the Colts convincingly. And then they went into LA and beat the Chargers 38-10 week 3. So they're just one of those teams that no one expects. I still think this year, though, they'll be a team that even if they win their division, they'll probably get bounced in the wild card round. But they're a team that they're getting their flower. They're getting their flowers for all the right reasons. And I'm going to make a transition to the Chargers because of today's game.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the Chargers are going to get the 6 and 7 seed. I think that's going to be the thing. I think how it is now, I don't think the wild card seeds are changing unless either you or LA lose out and one of the Patriots and the Jets win out. I think the Jets have shot themselves in the foot too much to do that. And even though the Patriots have been wonky ever since, I almost had it.
That was cool for a minute.
It was one of those moments where it's like, whoa, cool. And folks, for those of you getting distracted by us, hey, it's Danny Dimes in Primetime. Y'all know the drill.
And they just had a flea flicker, and we both simultaneously looked at our screens like, whoa, flea flicker play.
Exactly. But
unless the Jets, Patriots, unless they win out, Chargers. Yeah.
Because with the Jets, that like this Thursday's game is going to tell us a lot about both teams. It's going to tell us a lot. And then with the Jets, you go to the Seahawks, and that's going to be a desperation spot for both teams. And then they go to you guys to finish off the year. And I still say this about the Jets. They needed that Patriots win. They needed that win. That was that, like, because that could have been their crowning. We're here. We're a different team. We're this, we're that. And even now, like with Zach Wilson still playing, there's so many question marks because you couldn't beat the Detroit Lions.
And there was a report. I don't think we talked about this on Thursday because I don't think when we did the show on Thursday, I don't think the news had broken yet that Zach Wilson was gonna start. And there was a report on Twitter. I don't remember where I saw it from that there's a rumor that the Jets ownership wants Zach Wilson to stay starting because he's the number 2 overall pick. I don't have to explain why. It makes sense. But Saleh wants Mike White to keep starting. And they say that may have something to do with why Mike White, everyone thought he was going to play. He said he was going to play, and then he's not cleared on Friday. And by the way, they play on Thursday Night Football this week. He's probably not going to be cleared again. It's one of those things that just makes you go, And if Zach Wilson's starting the rest of the year, they will not make the playoffs. They will not win out. And again, I literally said like 10 minutes ago that I think they're going to beat the Jaguars on Thursday and all that. So it's not like I think they're capable of winning any game, but I don't think they're beating us unless we rest starters. That's the only way they would beat us is if we rest starters. And I think that Zach Wilson being their starter might come back to bite them.
I don't think you guys will be resting starters at that point, just because even for like you guys and like for us, our last 3 games are against teams. And by the way, I know you guys play Green Bay and they're kind of out of it. I don't like showing like those teams with like 5 or 6 wins in there. Like, even though we'll get into it, folks. But even though Vegas had their moment today, they're not making the playoffs. Like there's certain teams where it's like they're giving their fans false sense of hope at this time of the year, and that's not where you want to be. And I feel like the Jets are slowly creeping into that thing. But for now, for the Jets for next year, my worry with them is, you know what, our expectations way too high to that you crumble under your own pressure, kind of like what the Arizona Cardinals were this year. You know, with the Jets, where it's like this year was like, okay, hey, go in there and make some noise. You made some noise, but it's how you truly, truly respond to that third-year leap. Because with Zach Wilson, management doesn't have to go out and get him a weapon. You have Garrett Wilson. You have Elijah Moore. You have Corey Davis. You have Denzel Mims.
Have that excuse that these other quarterbacks have, where it's like, get them the premier weapon. And like Wilson already has plenty.
That's why I'm saying it with Mac, where I'm like, I want the Patriots to go out and get a weapon, either whether through the draft or trading, because free agency.
I have a new name for you on that, by the way.
Ooh, we'll get into that in a sec.
Oh, sorry. We should get to in a second. But
You know what? I'm just looking at other games today. Like the only other ones I see here is one thing I'll say going back to the AFC South. If the Titans miss out, does Mike Vrabel get fired?
I would think not, but it depends on the look. And if him getting fired or not is going to depend on the dynamic of the politics of that whole organization. It seems like the ownership didn't like John Robinson, but they liked Mike Vrabel. And so I think Vrabel will probably have a hand in picking his new general manager. And if that's the case, then he'll be around for a while. Yeah. Getting fired, I think, would be harsh. They've made the playoffs 3 years in a row before this year. I understand the team is middling. They've had bad luck with injuries, and the offense is like kind of really hard to watch right now. But telling everyone right now, fantasy leagues, Treylon Burks, that dude is a stud. That dude is about to explode down the stretch. I've been waiting for him to have his second half of the season breakout. The Titans desperately need him. He got a concussion in that Eagles game while scoring a touchdown, by the way.
Yeah.
And he's been gone the last 3 games. They're being underrated right now because of that. When he comes back, and he should come back next week, they're going to start taking off because I think that guy's a monster, and I think he struggled earlier in the year with injuries. I think now you're about to see him ascend in the last 3 games.
I only say that about Mike Vrabel because I look at it because there's always one coach that no one saw coming. Like Brian Flores firing last year. That's where I get it from. You know, where it's like it's that impulse, like, hey, you're not the guy, you're not this. Like, we want to just start fresh with a clean slate and everything like that. That's where I worry about with the Titans.
We do have the McCarthy thing in our back pocket, but that's not a surprise. Like, everyone knows that. Like, if they don't win the division and they lose to the NFC South champion, whether it's the Bucs or the Falcons or the Panthers or whoever, then I do think he gets fired.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that was Mike McCarthy regardless, because look, it's Dallas. It's every year you're under a microscope. You're this and that.
And they're a great team. Like they should win playoff games this year. Like they're good enough to.
Yeah. I don't want to do this, but I'm ready to rip off the Band-Aid.
Oh boy. Well,
Patriots lose 30-24 after trailing 17-10 to the Las Vegas Raiders. You know what was weird about this game was that Mac had probably one of the worst games of his career, but then yet Derek Carr played just as bad.
Yeah, the quarterbacks were very well scouted by both sides. You could kind of tell that the Raiders kind of had a sense of how to defend Mac Jones, so that was part of it. But yeah.
The other thing too is I know Connor McDermott's a practice squad guy, but he handled Max Crosby very well. That was one thing. Max Crosby, I know it was obviously Chandler Jones was the big hero of the day, if you will. But
he got a sack too. Chandler Jones got a sack earlier in the game.
But exactly. But Chandler Jones, I know he's the big free agency signing, but Max Crosby's like the quote unquote anchor of the defense. And the fact that last week he had this like just unbelievable week against that Rams. He was just cooking all night long. So today getting shut out. And even the other one too, I'll give credit where credit's due. You got to put Marcus Jones' name in the defensive rookie of the year conversation, especially after what he did today, holding Devontae Adams to what he held Adams to. What the fuck is going on?
Oh my God! There's always stupid shit in these games.
It's NFC East football. I feel like it's just called just rename the division the stupid shit champion.
Whoever had the ball originally probably doesn't have the ball right now. Like whatever decision they make, that ball has changed hands.
No. Let's see. What are the?
This decision's taking forever.
Let's see. Oh, the Commanders got it.
Wow, they got lucky. Jesus.
Yeah, they got lucky. But the one thing I'll say is though today, I think we learned that
he was down anyways.
Oh yeah, he was fine. The one thing I'll say about the Patriots is though, not even the bad quarterbacking play. If they can get proper offensive play calling and another weapon to add to Mac's arsenal, because the other thing today, the Patriots missed. There was a lot of weirdly thrown balls. Like there was receivers missing catches. There was the Tyquan Thornton call that was inbounds within the touchdown. That I'm sorry, that was out of bounds. That Keelan Cole touchdown was out. What?
I saw the pool reporter apparently said that. Look, it was inconclusive. It's like I don't know. I don't know how it's inconclusive. I don't know how this billion-dollar industry doesn't have like the technology to just like give you clear answers on this stuff. Like we have a camera in the pylon. Like these people are swimming in money. Quarterbacks are billionaires by virtue of being quarterbacks. Yeah. Like why is it so fucking hard to get to take this out of the referee's hands? And we have the technology on the field goals. Oh, this 52-yard field goal would have been good from 63 yards. Like we can do that, but we can't give a precise anatomical location of feet where even though it's obvious to all of us, clearly this dumb referee didn't think so. But don't let the dumb referee ruin the game. Make sure the dumb referee doesn't have that power by just having a clear-cut automatic decision.
Because that's it. That's it. Because the Patriots have been screwed now the last 3 weeks by dumb calling, like the Hunter Henry touchdown. And then there was the Patrick Mahomes one the next week that was a touchdown where I'm like, I'm sorry, both of those are touchdowns. That's just Alex Kemp got it wrong. Ronald Torbert was the referee today. He got it wrong. The other thing, too, I want to say is there's Jonathan Vilma. I just don't like it when announcers are clearly one-sided. I don't like it. And we saw it today from Jonathan Vilma. Ramondre Stevenson is running back one of this team. Damian Harris is gone, by the way. I'm saying that Damian Harris will be somewhere else next year. I love the guy. He's a great running back, but it's just one of those, he needs a new change. He needs to change the scenery.
I like the other backs you have, Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris. I was a fan of Kevin Harris in college. It's not when he was in South Carolina. I have him on one of my dynasty teams. I've talked about it before on the show. Yeah. It's a dynasty league where you draft college players, and when they graduate to the NFL, they join your dynasty league. And Kevin Harris was one of the guys I've had. So I've known about him for a while. And I think he's really talented. And Pierre Strong had a really good showing against the Cardinals. So it's just common sense Patriots logic. You let the more experienced running back walk so that someone else can pay him. And then you have the 5th and 6th round picks ready to take his job. And they're going to do just as well. So
exactly. That's the thing, too. Even Belichick's hitting on all these picks. If you look at the last, like I was saying before, the 2020 draft class, man, Josh Uche and Kyle Duggar look great. And even today, Pierre Strong, Kevin Harris, Cole Strange. There's just so much good on this team that just gets overshadowed because this team keeps shooting themselves in the foot. And now when it comes down to that final play.
Oh, gosh.
I'm going to say this right now, but Mac Jones should not have been in the position he is in. I don't know what Jacoby Myers was doing. If they were down like 24-21 and that happened, it would not have stung. It would have been, you know what? It sucks. It was a stupid play, but you know what? It is what it is. Or like how the Miracle in Miami, how that for the first little bit it sucked, but then obviously how the Patriots were. Were the Patriots winning? Yeah, never mind. The Patriots were winning that game. This was tied. He goes down. Even if they lost in overtime, it would have sucked, but it's not like, oh, it's this hard pill to swallow. Meanwhile, now, as soon as Mac let Chandler Jones walk by him, he knew the game was over. The game was over. That's all I got to say. And then the only other thing, too, I'll say is there's something about Mac Hollins that kind of rubs me the wrong way. Like doing stupid stuff like fielding the ball and then starting to do the gritty and stuff like that. I'm like, buddy, what are you doing? I know he's a former Dolphin.
He is. He wasn't just a Dolphin. He was a captain. Tua. The story's been told before by Dolphins beat writers that Tua did not want to be a captain last year because that's how much he fucking hated Brian Flores. And captains have to have a meeting with Flores once a week. And Tua hated Flores so much he didn't want to do it. And so Mac Hollins was the captain for the offense for the Dolphins last year. But yeah, the gritty was a little much. He's always been a little bit of a eccentric personality. Like if you ever watch any of his interviews, he collects snakes, like he wants snakes, gators, like he wants a bunch of different pets that he thinks would be a cool experience to have. So yeah, no, that play was. I did see Jacoby Myers. I think it was Zach Cox or whoever that guy is for NESN. Zach.
It's Zach.
Yeah. Zach had an interview with Jacoby Myers where Jacoby Myers, I give him a lot of credit. Like he took it on the chin. He said, look, man, it wasn't coaching. I've seen some of your idiot fan base get on the coaches for this. He was like, we were not told to do that. Like that was just instinctually our decision. Like Ramondre just pitched it to him and Jacoby pitched it to Mac. But he was like, that wasn't the plan going in. It was just kind of spur of the moment. He thought that's what you got to do. And yeah, he was doing too much.
Exactly. Because you have people today saying like, oh, this move makes me not want to re-sign Jacoby, where I'm like, they literally, did you see the 2-point conversion? Because that was like one of the most beautifully drawn plays. You have everyone go to the right. You have Jacoby fake the guy out, go to the left, and then catch the ball in the flat. It was perfect. This team, like even today with the coach, like the coaching today was not as bad as what it was against Arizona. It was just, you know what, there were simple offensive mistakes. That wasn't getting the ball done. And even stuff like the play of the Darren Waller touchdown. I'm sorry. Guys like that are going to do that. I've come to terms with that. Like where you have to accept certain guys are going to do certain things. Like Justin Jefferson when you play Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs when you play against him. It's probably going to happen next Saturday too when Jamar Chase plays the Patriots. Same thing's going to happen. But all in all, I'll say this right now. This team is not bad. I know they're 7-7 right now. Out of their last 3 games. Oh, what the fuck?
Oh, boy. Looks like they got it back.
They did. Yeah. This game is just sloppy. I think this team, I still said this at the beginning of the year, their worst case scenario is 8-9, and I still believe that. I don't think there's a way they lose out all the last 3 games, especially.
No. I'm going to be rooting for you guys hard next week because my fear is that if you guys lose to the Bengals, then the game against the Dolphins becomes the emotional season on the line, lay it all on the line, go balls to the wall, and that's when the 8th win comes in. So that would be annoying. And look, as a fan, one thing you can hope for, if the Bills win next week, they clinch the division.
Yeah.
If the Bills beat the Bengals on Monday Night Football and the Chiefs lose one more game in the next 2 weeks, I think the Chiefs play Seattle now, and then after Seattle, they play someone else. I can look it up pretty quickly. But
they played Vegas Week 18. That's all I remember. And I think they play – I'll look it up. They play Seattle next weekend, and then they play Vegas Week 18, and then Week 17, Kansas –
Denver.
Ugh.
Home to Denver. Yeah, so that's not happening. But if let's say Seattle, because that one's actually possible. If the Bills win the next 2 games and the Chiefs lose to the Seahawks,
which they play the Bears next week,
and they have the Bears next week, they're like 9-point favorites. So if those things happen, then Week 18 the Bills will have clinched the division and clinched the 1 seed. And when you clinch the division and clinch the 1 seed, that's when they may rest Josh Allen, and that's where you would have a glimmer of hope that if they rest Josh Allen, maybe that could be a win too. So
can I tell you something? I'd rather have you guys break our playoff spirits than the Bills. I don't want that. You really think I need the Bills eliminating the Patriots 2 years in a row? No, that's not good for my human psyche. One other thing I'll say is though, like, it's like I said, I've never thought of this year to be the year to go for it. It never was.
Yeah.
It was to me, it's always next year. Next year is that year where I want a competitive team where you know what, hey, you might hear me saying some outlandish things, but it's like the same thing you heard Danny saying this year because of the money Joe Douglas spent and the draft capital they got drafting Sauce, drafting Garrett Wilson. With the Patriots, it's a very similar avenue. But because when I look at this team, there's not a whole lot of need. I would say, if anything, probably tackle because I think one of Isaiah Wynn or Trent Brown's probably gone. More likely, I think Isaiah Wynn. Running back, they're fine. Tight end, they're fine. I know Hunter and John Nua haven't had good seasons, but they're fine players. It's literally just get a wide receiver. I think our defensive line is one of the best in football. Our defense as a whole is one of the best in football the way they've been playing. Because it's the one thing about Bill Belichick teams. The defense is always good.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
So that's the only thing I'm going to say is we'll see what happens in these last 3 games. But I'm kind of looking already and seeing like, hey, who fits on this team for next year and who doesn't. I think that guys like Damian Harris is gone. I think Nelson Aguilar, they're just not going to re-sign. And I think Jacoby Myers is going to re-sign. I think you could potentially see a Kendrick Bourne trade, even though I don't want that because I think Bourne is good for this team. But we'll see what happens. And one other thing I'll say is for anyone saying to me over the Matt Patricia thing, you really think Robert Kraft's going to sign up for another year of this? Because I do not see that happening. I think especially if Cliff gets fired, I think there's a chance that – I know Greg said it on Thursday. I mean, he's a former Bill Belichick quarterback, so why not go get Cliff? Because I think Cliff is a good offensive coordinator, but not a good head coach. Or Cliff gets a bag and goes back to college.
And there's also the Bill O'Brien thing that we've talked about before. Gotta say it, because there was that report about it like 2 years ago. The weird relationship that the Patriots seem to have with Adam Gase. I'm just saying. And again, same thing like you said with Cliff. Gase's main criticisms come from being the head coach and the play caller. When you're just the offensive coordinator, like he was in Denver and that 1 year in Chicago, things are different. So something to keep in mind. And I know no one in your fan base will be excited about that. Everyone will start bitching, but something to keep in mind.
I wouldn't exactly rule it out because Adam Gase as an OC was fine. Even Adam Gase in Miami, he wasn't a terrible head coach. He made the playoffs, and then it's just the Jets. Like even to his first year with the Jets, they were 7-9. It's just the second year. It was just stupid mistake after stupid mistake and everything like that. That's where that part comes in.
And the key receiver thing matters. Like that's why I keep bringing up T. Higgins, because how did A.J. Brown get traded? A.J. Brown was with the Titans for 3 years, and then it was time to pay him. He was not a first-round pick, so he was in a contract year that offseason and demanded like contract negotiations, and eventually the Titans didn't agree and traded him. So T. Higgins, also not a first-round pick, been with the Bengals for 3 seasons now. T. Higgins is going to want a new contract. And if he wants like a big bag of like $25 million, and if the Bengals say, we can't do that because we have to pay Joe Burrow, we have to pay Jamar Chase, and we already gave Joe Mixon a lot of money, not to mention some of their guys on defense, then you could see the Bengals trading T. Higgins.
And the offensive line, too. Like, I know Alex Kappa got a pretty significant payday. Ted Karras got a payday. I think Joe Mixon's making like $16 million a year, if I'm not mistaken. Burrow will be in the 45-plus category. He deserves it. And the Jamar Chase, too. Because that's the thing this year. This offseason, you're going to see the market reset. Because, look, what's Justin Jefferson going to get for the Vikings? What's Tua going to get from Miami? What's Joe Burrow going to get? What's Justin Herbert going to get? I know everyone's saying, Justin Herbert hasn't done anything. He is the Chargers quarterback of the future. So there's all these guys where it's like, what are they going to get? CeeDee Lamb is another example, too, in Dallas. Like
CeeDee Lamb,
which I think that's going to be I'm going to say this right now. And also, too, Tony Pollard for Dallas as well. So I think there's a chance that Zeke either restructures or he gets traded. Like, I think that's for the Tyreek Hill thing when it came down to, I'm not getting enough touches. No, that wasn't a thing. I think it was just a money thing. He didn't want to give money back to help. So then they had to deal him. But I like your T. Higgins method. Like I said, I always starting to get on the boat of he's not going to be on Cincinnati long-term just because, like you said, they have to pay those guys. And when it comes down to it, you're going to go Chase over Higgins.
So you could send him to New England. Maybe they don't want to trade him in conference, but at least it's not in division. Or if the Patriots offer a first-round pick, I'd trade a first-round pick for T. Higgins. He's that good.
The only other player I would see the Patriots potentially trading for would be like a Deontay Johnson, for example. Like, he's already paid. And because I'm sorry, but there's a few teams in the NFL right now that I look at where I'm like, there's no hope already for 2023. One of them, and hopefully he doesn't hear this. I don't think the Saints have any hope for next year.
Yeah, the cap situation's still fucked. Like they spent all those years kicking the can down the road. Well, here we are.
You eventually got to pay the bartender the tab. Michael Thomas is another one I want to say, but I just think that's too much of a risk. I think it's just too risky at this point. I think Michael Thomas will go to some team, he'll blow it up. But like the Saints, the Steelers are another one. I just think next year is going to be a painful year for them. Mike Tomlin will still be there, but like they drafted the last couple of years for want over need. Like I don't think they had to go out and get Kenny Pickett. I think you could have ridden with Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
Had the season of whatever, and then this year you're in a good position to draft a quarterback. But now you're in the teens to where, yeah, if you wanted to upgrade over Pickett, you kind of can't. So what do you do if you're the Steelers? The only other player I would say for the Patriots, though, that I would love to draft, but there's no way in hell that's going to happen, is the offensive lineman Peter Skorwinski from Northwestern.
Yeah,
would love him, but he's not making it out of the top 10, maybe top 5. So we'll see what happens there. And even the other thing too, with people getting paid this year because his scrappages came up. What are the Giants going to give Saquon?
Yeah, like because it's a situation where if they don't pay him, someone else will. And
Yeah.
even if someone won't, even if they won't pay him what like he would have gotten paid like 5 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
I still think there's a deal to be made. I really like the Titans Derrick Henry contract. They gave Derrick Henry 4 years, $50 million with $25 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
So $12.5 million per year, and only the first 2 years are guaranteed. I think that's a good deal. It's like the running back gets $25 million guaranteed, so it's not like they're getting no money. And you as a team, by their third or fourth year of the deal, if the running back still has it, you can keep him around. Like I'm sure the Titans are still going to keep Henry around. You can keep him around and see what you get out of him on that number, which is not that high. Or if the running back loses his burst by then, you could just cut him and it's no extra cost to the cap. And so I think those deals like that are good. I think the deal that McCaffrey got is too much, as saw by them eventually trading him, like $16 million a year. I think it's too much for running backs in today's NFL. But $12.5 million a year, I think that's reasonable. So I think hopefully, that's what I hope they do. 4 years, $50 million.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. That seems fair. The other thing too, by the way, with Cincinnati is their owner's been notoriously cheap. So that's the other thing too with the Higgins. This game's gonna come down to the wire, and I kind of love it.
I do too. It's kind of a fun primetime game.
Yeah. You know what? Thank you for putting this game into primetime, because if what happened to the Patriots today happened in primetime, like. So I'm gonna ask you honestly, from an outsider's perspective, what was the worst event of the weekend, the Patriots or the Colts?
Okay, so in terms of like immediate pain, I think there's more acute pain from what happened to the Patriots. But in terms of like big picture, what's worse, it's the Colts, because that one goes in the history books forever. Yes, the Patriots play will be remembered forever too. Let's not get it twisted, just like the Miami Miracle will be.
Or the Minneapolis Miracle.
But at least the Patriots, the game would have just gone to overtime. We don't know what would have happened in overtime. You were on the road. Like, yes, maybe they would have just won in overtime. And I understand you just want the chance to see whether you do or don't. So, but it's not like you did that with the lead. Because obviously who the hell would lateral with the lead and then lost the lead because of that game.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a very embarrassing way. But the Colts having the most blown lead in NFL history is the kind of stat that is cited forever. Yes. And even though it didn't happen in the playoffs, it's going to have a playoff-like memory, because how many times have we heard about Frank Reich and the Bills overcoming the Oilers 35-3 deficit? I've been hearing that my whole life. So for one team to actually eclipse that number, I don't think that will ever be forgotten. So I think that is a bigger embarrassment long term. Even though as a Colts fan, you kind of know as it's happening, oh my God, like they're actually going to fuck this up. You get to overtime, the pain is dulled a little bit. But with the Patriots, it was very acute. It was like in the moment, holy shit, that hurt. Yeah.
And I had family over here, and everyone was like, "Are you okay?" And I literally just like got up and I like came upstairs to my room right here, and I'm just like, I need a few minutes. I needed my space. I just needed to like breathe. The other thing that sucks most about it for me was that like I had family over, and I'm just like, I have to soak this up with people who aren't really the biggest football fans in the world.
Yeah.
Nothing against them. My family's great. They're all awesome. But you know what I mean? Like if I was by myself or if my fiance was with me, she watches every game with me. So if that was the case, it'd be like one of those, that is what it is. Maybe I go for a walk and just clear my head. But which I did after the Patriots Bills game last year. That's like one of the only times where I went for a walk. But like even I'll say this about the Patriots, last year's playoff game, it wasn't that bad because by halftime I'm like, okay, you have 30 minutes left. Enjoy the season because you're not going to see it again until September. That's what we're going to do with these last 3 games with them. Today feels like a playoff crusher because like obviously like I said, they have to win out. They have to have a chance. I don't think 9-8 gets you in. 10-7 is going to get you in. And my only hope right now is that the Chargers piss down their leg, but I don't see it happening because like we were saying earlier, Colts, Rams, Broncos.
I think they can lose one, but just the problem is though,
yeah,
just one. I can't see them losing 2 or 3.
You know what? I can see them winning against the Chargers, but they sneak by. I can see the Chargers covering because it's that they had an emotional win today. Everyone's going to think they're going to go and kick their ass, but then it's a cross-country trip as well.
What's about to happen?
What's going to?
Oh
my God! Jahan Dotson with the amazing catch.
Wow!
Oof.
Wow!
Okay, Terry pushing off there was kind of stupid to do, but I'll say that now. That's just athleticism at its finest. My God. That's another team I'm going to give flowers to, by the way, is the Commanders. Even if they don't make the playoffs, because when you look at right now the coaches who are on the hot seat, like who week 18 is realistically going to get fired? Like even though they had a bad year, I can't see Kevin Stefanski just because of all the Watson stuff.
Yeah, I would think not. I would think Stefanski would get another year. I would say Cliff is the big one to watch. Cliff Kingsbury. I would say Lovie Smith is one to watch.
Oh shit. Lovie Smith.
And it might not be fair because think about it. They were competitive against the Chiefs, the Cowboys, and the Eagles. All 3 games. Those are like the 3 best teams in football, aside from the Bills.
They're going to go out and get they're going to hire Josh McCown. It's going to be like one of those things.
There's too much smoke about it, and then Albert Breer, who's very connected with Nick Caserio, had that report mid-season that ownership is unhappy. They know the team is rebuilding, but they thought they would be more competitive than a 1-win team. They're about to get a first overall pick. That guy's. Have they clinched the first overall pick?
No, but they got very close to it. One other take I saw today by Dan Orlovsky, by the way, and I want to ask you about this. He was saying that if get the right pieces around Justin Fields and the Bears are a Super Bowl contender next year. I don't think that's true at all because that team, more than getting Justin Fields pieces, you need to improve that defense. That defense is not that good.
They and it was partly by their own doing. They traded Robert Quinn and Roquan Smith to rebuild. It's like, okay, you got to replace those guys. You need new guys in there.
That will always piss me off because you basically went all in to beat the Patriots on Monday Night Football, and you've not won a game since. That's the loss that's going to sting the most out of anything. More than today is the Bears loss and the Vikings loss because
they're gonna beat the Bills at home, so the Dolphins can still have a chance to win the division.
Fucking imagine, Jesus Christ! I'm looking at it right now. They're 1-12-1. And then the Bears are 3-11. So I think basically if they lose next week to Tennessee, and then the Bears,
and then maybe if they lose and the Bears win, it's clinched. And if they lose 2, it's I get it now. I forgot about the Bears. It's Texans, Bears, and then it's Rams and Broncos, right? Except it's actually Lions and Seahawks.
If the draft ended today, here's how the top 10 would go. It'd go Houston, Chicago, Seattle, Arizona, Detroit, Colts, Falcons, Eagles, Panthers, Packers.
Arizona. Wow, I forgot about
Arizona. I think Arizona's pretty much right now I'd say the top 4 is secured with Houston, Chicago, Seattle via Denver, and then Arizona. I would say that because with Arizona right now, though, when I look at them, though, with need, I want to go, what do you need? That's the thing. Even with Denver, too, because I know Denver has a first-round pick with you guys, but, what does – Denver doesn't need anything. They need a quarterback, but you're not going to go get that. Meanwhile, with Arizona, I think you have to go – who's that crazy defender from Oh, they're going for the field goal. Okay, so it'll be a 2-point game. So all they need to do is just get a. They're gonna win 18-17 off 2 field goals. Watch.
Oh, the Giants challenged it.
Okay, right now Dayball looks like Wink, and it's. Let's see this. That's out. That's out. That's out.
Oof. Rough.
That's rough. You know what I mean? Like, what does Denver need? That's my thing. Is what does Denver need? And then with Arizona, like it's defense. Arizona needs defense. Their defense was horrible Monday night.
Arizona needs a lot of new players for the defense. They need offensive line help. They need a lot of things. But more than anything, they just need a new coach. They just need a new coach, a fresh start, a healthy Kyler. They need all that stuff more than anything else.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. I don't think you have Kyler coach because I know they have the extensions, but they never said the fully guaranteed or anything about that for them. So if for anything, we don't know what the full details of the extensions are. So, like I said, Cliff's out. But even so let's go back to the coaches then. Okay, so the only other coaches I can see leaving, like we said, is McVay. I can see Carroll retiring just because, it's the age thing, and then Seattle kind of basically how we were talking earlier. Steve Keim, Dave Gettleman, they got their flowers on the way out.
Yeah, and we didn't mention Hackett. We should have mentioned Hackett. It's weird. Like the guys most likely to get fired are the one and done coaches. It's
Dennis Allen.
The Dennis Allen, Nathaniel Hackett. We thought Josh McDaniels at one point, not anymore, but at one point we thought that.
I think he's done enough to salvage his job. The other one I want to ask about, what about Arthur Smith?
That's an interesting name. I would say probably not.
But he'll be a guy where next year his job's on the line.
Yes, I think that's the right move. I think it's ultimately going to end up being Matt Rule, Kingsbury, and then one and done people like Dennis Allen, Lovie Smith, and Hackett. Those are probably the 5 most likely in total. If the Commanders don't make the playoffs, I do think Rivera is still at risk. I know it seems unfair because they've bounced back over the last couple of weeks, but if they just bottom out, lose out, and they go 7-8-1 or 7-9-1, right? If they go 7-9-1 or 8-8-1, I think either or, I think that would have him dangerous because that's 3 years without a winning season.
Yeah.
At that point, that's kind of risky.
That's the big thing too, because the only other coaches I look at, even if they make the playoffs, not an embarrassing loss. I think Brandon Staley's bought a case already for next year, unless they choke down the stretch and miss the playoffs.
Yeah, if they choke out, then he's another one at risk because they should be in the playoffs 2 years straight. So yes, I definitely agree with that name.
Mike McCarthy, but that's a later on thing. Matt LaFleur is another one. I don't know. I don't think
so. Yeah, I don't think so. No, because they've won so much when Rodgers was there, even though this year has not been as good. Yeah. Here's I got a little fun.
It's reversed on the field, so of course it is.
Here's a little fun, crazy one. I'm not saying I think it's going to happen, but just hear me out.
Okay.
Robert Saleh, who's done a great job this year, objectively, great. But if they lose out, which is very possible, their schedule is Jacksonville, Seattle, Miami.
Which isn't easy anymore.
And no, absolutely not. So, and again, like I said before, not to be contradictory, I think they're going to beat the Jags on Thursday. But just bear with me. Let's say they lose out. And he's fighting with ownership about whether or not to play Zach Wilson or Mike White.
Yeah,
that's kind of like when you fight with ownership. If that report's true, when you fight with ownership, that's usually how you get fired.
Yeah.
So it's something to watch.
My other thing too with him is. I was always one of my dark horse candidates at the beginning of the year to get fired because of the potential and the expectation. Would it be a double house cleaning though?
Or do you think Douglas is much like Joe Judge last year, where they had a bad year, but he was only 2 years in. People genuinely thought Joe Judge did a good job his first year, where the Giants would have won the division if the Eagles didn't tank that Sunday night game. But it was like, okay, you're firing Gettleman. You kind of have to fire the head coach too, because then the head coach is going to be a lame duck if you fire the GM and bring in a new GM, right? So that could be a similar thing where they fire Joe Douglas and it's like, Saleh, it's not even really your fault, but we're going to want a new GM. A new GM is going to want his own guy, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, because even still, I've seen, and I think Michael LaFleur is gone. I don't think there's a chance he's going to be coaching next year because every time I see Danny bitch tweet about the Jets, it's always about Michael LaFleur's play calling as well.
Yeah.
But with Saleh, though, would he get another head coaching job? I think he would just go back to being a DC. Because I think if D'Amico Ryans gets one of those head coaching jobs, the Niners would easily bring him back.
Yes, and I think the name of the new DCs, we've already talked about some of them. We talked about Ben Johnson from the Lions, D'Amico Ryans. The Eagles guys, apparently, both of them, Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon, are both contenders to get a job. And for those that don't know, Shane Steichen, I believe, was Justin Herbert's coordinator when he was a rookie, when he had that rookie year. Yeah, so he obviously gets a lot of credit for a rookie quarterback being that good that quickly. So yeah, those are Shane Steichen, Jonathan Gannon, D'Amico Ryans, Ben Johnson, Dan Quinn if he wants it. Those are probably the ones.
Dan Quinn's gonna be one of those ones though where we all look at that and go like, "LOL, okay," and then we realize that he gets fired in like 3 to 4 years after getting a job.
Everyone's gonna bet against whatever team he's coaching, like bet against them on the spread most of the year.
I have a weird one. Luke Getsy. Potentially.
I like that. Fields has played. Yeah.
Yeah, because someone's gonna see that I could see how they say stupid organizations do stupid things. Yeah. I could see an Arizona going after, you want an offensive guy to work with Kyler. You want someone good to do. The other name we haven't said, and by the way, I think there's a reason for this, Eric Bieniemy, but I still think that there's a handshake agreement that he takes over from Andy Reid when he retires.
Yeah, and especially since
especially I think Patrick probably also calls shots on that as well, where it's like, okay, they're fucking ramming it down their throats right now.
And the Giants weren't doing this for most of the game. They did it in that drive to end the first half, but that was it.
Yeah.
This is all 2-minute offense. The Giants are now Washington still has 3 timeouts, but yeah. It's not looking encouraging. If the Giants kick a field goal, the game is not over. It is unlikely, but it's not over.
Yeah. But that's my thing when I thought about Getsy just for there, because when I look at other names like Michael LaFleur, no. Ken Dorsey, I don't think so.
No, it's too early. He's probably more of a next year or year after kind of guy.
Leslie Frazier, I don't think so. I think his name will be in the conversation, but ultimately, even if Buffalo loses this year, which I still say this, and I'll actually say in a second, with Buffalo, I still think it's this year. It's never for Buffalo. I think this is their best chance to win.
Well, they're probably going to be the 1 seed, and it's if you don't win when you're the 1 seed, that's kind of dicey. I will say, though, not many teams can win in that building. I think my team can. We're division opponents. We have that familiarity with them. But I think for other teams, it's going to be hard. You never doubt Mahomes, but Joe Burrow, who kind of has a little bit, his arm is not like Herbert's arm. Him in that weather, or the Ravens in that weather. I don't know about that. I don't know if they're able to do that. So we'll see.
That's my thing. That's my thing where I say that. I'd almost rather that's why I didn't say this to Greg, but I said this to my other Buffalo guy that comes on, Joe Miller. Do not buy AFC East championship merchandise, because I know they go around flexing that. They treated for them last year, even too, them beating the Patriots was their Super Bowl, in my opinion. I will stand by that take, just because you finally got the one up on Big Brother. You finally did this, but then now look at the end goal. Look at getting to Phoenix, because there's when you look at. I still say this, there's 2 teams from the AFC, potentially 3. If I had to say, probably Buffalo, KC, and maybe Cincinnati. Those are the 3 I look at to get to the Super Bowl. But with the NFC, I'm sorry. At this point, I think it's San Francisco's to lose. I don't think they'll get the 1 seed. I think Philly will, but because at the end of the day with them, do we trust the Eagles to go far? The Eagles are the Eagles and the Vikings are those teams that I trust to, have a devastating playoff loss, and it's that what went wrong, and then next year they're one of those teams that have those crazy expectations on them. Also, other thing too with the quarterbacks for this year for contracts, if I'm Jalen Hurts, because he can re-sign on January 1, if you're Howie Roseman, you get that deal done immediately. Don't let the other guy sign first.
I'm not a fan of the Eagles in the playoffs. Well, my main reason why, and I've said this before, they're not really built to play from behind, and what happens in the playoffs when you're down by 2 touchdowns in the second half and you can't really run the ball anymore? You have to throw. In that Commanders game, they had a 2-minute drill, down 5 points to take the lead in that Commanders game. On first down, they run the ball with Miles Sanders. On third down, Hurts scrambles. And you can't really do either of those things, but you do them in that situation because that's who they are. They don't know how to play offense without running the ball. But sometimes in 2-minute drills, you don't have time for that stuff. You don't have time to mix in runs here and there. And also, your offensive line doesn't give you perfect protection because now pass rushers know that you have to throw the ball, so they're going to run as soon as the snap gets off. They're not going to try to play the run lanes. And I just can't trust a team that has gotten very lucky in close games this year. Like I said, I think they're like 4-1 in close games.
Yeah.
I can't trust them to go far in the playoffs unless I know they can overcome a double-digit second half lead against a playoff team. And I'm just not sure they're capable of that. So yeah, no, I'm more into San Francisco, and I think San Francisco's defense is better. Even if I don't trust Brock Purdy to do that either. One, I kind of trust Shanahan a little bit more than Sirianni, but two, their defense is better, so they're going to be less likely to be in that situation in the first place because the Niners have the best defense in football.
Yeah, that's the thing. Where the Niners this year, it's like the 2015 Broncos. Just get decent offensive play and then let your defense do the rest. That's all you can do. Because that will get D'Amico Ryans a head coaching job. And even still, like with all the weapons they have and everything like that. I don't know if we talked about this too much on Thursday, but with the Tom Brady stuff. Because I've been starting, people have been like, oh, like I jokingly got asked, was Brady coming back to New England? I also got asked if I was a Buccaneers fan today by someone, and I said no. I said I'm loyal. I was here going down. Let's see what Gano does.
Hold on, wait! Don't spoil. You're ahead of me now. What a kick! Wow,
that was a fucking goofy kick. Gano's like one of the weirdest field goal kickers in the league. I'll also laugh again if this game goes 20-20 because
and it was 20-13 last time, and the Commanders scored a touchdown in under 2 minutes to send it to overtime. So it is possible. It is 20-20 again.
I got to stop predicting Giants losses because I came on here Thursday and was saying it was their funeral and stuff, even though I did take them on the 4.5 today in my spread pool. I did because I was just like, you know what? I had a feeling they'd keep it close. I just look at the Giants where I'm like, next week against Minnesota in that big spot like that, I think that's where we truly learn is this team going to be good or not. That's where I think we learn with them.
I want the Commanders. Oh, the Commanders or the Giants? The Commanders play the Niners, don't they?
Yeah, the Giants play the Vikings.
It's a big weekend for both of those teams. I personally think it's weird. I think the Commanders have more talent, but the Giants are kind of like when they won all those close games early in the year, like they just and just the way like Saquon's talking right now to the camera, it's like, I don't know, they have like some grit and moxie to them that, and I know Greg's going to kill it because I know Greg was saying on the show on Thursday, like, oh, teams that win one score games aren't exactly like tougher than other teams. I agree with you on that. But what I more so mean is that the Giants, like with Saquon and with some of their guys on defense, they just like have guys that aren't afraid of the moment, and their quarterback is just a little bit better. No. Even though the Commanders, like start to finish, may have a better roster 1-53, their quarterback is not as good, in my opinion, and they don't have those guys that come up huge in big moments as much as the Giants do. They have Terry. Their guys in the defensive line are awesome. But I just think with Saquon, with Thibodeau, with Dexter Lawrence, who caused that Heineke fumble, like the Giants guys have more consistently done that, I guess is my point.
The Giants' big thing for me still is their offensive line. That's still the big thing for me. I know they have Andrew Thomas, who's been great at left tackle this year, and Evan Neal, but you got to get your guard play and your center play right. That's my biggest thing with them. And, I know, it was like I was saying on Thursday with you and Greg, they have good pieces. And if you're watching on YouTube, we're looking off because obviously we want to watch this 2-minute drill. Let's see what he does. Oh, they got good field position, though. Oh, he was in. Oh, my Curtis Samuel.
Careful. Remember, you're a little bit ahead of me now. Okay. But not by much. You're ahead of me by like half a second.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. Because that was a hell of a play.
It just when it comes down to it, I just go against the Giants because I trust them to. I've been saying this a lot, and it's a weird expression, to pee down their leg more, like when they get nervous. I just trust the Giants to do that. But even if they get the win today, they still have to play the Vikings and the Eagles. And I'm sorry because how they looked last week is just where I go, and I'm like, oh, same old Giants. Like,
but if the Eagles, now I don't think the Eagles are winning next week. But if the Eagles win the week after against the Saints, they will have they clinch a spot. They clinch the 1 seed. So they may, if you clinch the 1 seed, what?
They'll rest.
They'll rest. Yeah, they'll rest versus the Giants. And we have proof of this. Last year, that's what they did. The Eagles clinched a playoff spot, and they were the 7th seed, and they were like seed locked. Like they couldn't go up or down. They could only be 7, so they didn't play Jalen Hurts.
I bet Quez Watkins in that game to get a touchdown for fun, and it fucking happened. But I remember all the Eagles fans being like, "Oh, Dallas, you beat our practice squad," and then the next week they got fucking cooked by the Buccaneers in Tampa.
Did you say you took them the next week on the line? Or
no, I did not. I did not.
Yeah, you said they put out like a practice squad team.
Yeah, they put out a practice squad team, but then the next week their starters and Jalen Hurts looked like that's why I don't trust Jalen Hurts either. Because remember the playoffs last year in Tampa, he looked horrible.
Yeah, and like he was saying today how he was caught off by how cold it was in Chicago. And sure, I've been in Chicago at that time of the year. It's a bitch, but you live in Philly. Like you're gonna have to play cold weather games in Philly. Like I'd be a little cautious about that. And look, hey, I will admit, I never thought Jalen Hurts would be this good. I will openly admit that. I thought he would be more of a mid-level quarterback. I do think he is on a great system with a great offensive line, the second best receiver duo in the league besides mine, and a top 5 tight end in the league, and a really good defense. His job is so easy. He's never behind on the scoreboard. He's never under any pressure. Like there's so many quarterbacks in the league that would take that team to the playoffs. So them being 13-1 just isn't all that impressive to me. But the numbers are great. Yeah. And I don't think everyone in the league would have those numbers. And certainly not everyone would have 11 rushing touchdowns. I just think that on worse offenses, he would like really, really struggle. But again, it doesn't matter for now. He fits that team. He fits how that team works, and he's better than I thought he would be. I was wrong. So good for him. But yeah, trust in the playoffs, I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I'm not there yet either. I'm not. You're going to hate me for saying this, but I was thinking about Detroit Lions' possible targets. I look at your tight end right now for them. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, it's. I think my tight end is not going to be in Miami anymore. It's sad. Like that's one of the sad parts about yesterday. Aside from the other stuff that we already talked about, that the Dolphins fought their hearts out. They really should have won that game.
They show they belong in the playoff picture.
They do, and they covered they beat expectations for sure. It's that cruel nature of football and life generally. It's called
you got the moral victories, but not the victory.
The disease, and it's the disease of more. It's like, yes, I just wanted them to put up a fight, and I said on this show on Thursday, even if they win or lose, maybe they have their Bills-Bucks moment from last year, where the Bills lost to the Bucks in overtime, and they went on a run right after that until they lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs. And it was like, okay, you don't win the game, but you prove that you can hang with a contender, and that gives you the confidence to play better. I do think something like that can happen with this team, so I can't complain. But when we get so close, when they have an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter, you can't help but naturally just go, oh, man, can you please win the game? So, yeah, it's wow, nice catch.
Yeah, that was like me against Green Bay earlier this year and Minnesota too. It's like one of those things where it's like, you look good, you do this, but more so Green Bay, where it's like, and even last year too when the Patriots played the Dallas Cowboys, it sucks. I don't like it at all, but you know what? It's what we're here for. It's the fun of football. It's just something I thought of with there. But then even the snow pellet stuff, like I don't know if it was snowballs or if it was ice or not, but at the same time too, I look at it the way as no one got hurt, so I don't look at it as too big of a big deal. Which
you don't look at it as like with the same amount of pain. Oh, what the hell was that? Oh my god!
How do you drop that?
Oh my god! That's the game-losing interception.
The snap was horrible, but here's the thing. Every time you drop a pick, something bad happens right after it. I'm not trying to wish bad on the Giants,
but yeah, I mean, as a fan who watched a million dropped Tom Brady interceptions in the fourth quarter over the years, usually that meant doom on the next player to play after.
Yeah, even shit like this, like not getting set in time, like having. Oh, well, never mind. That actually did. Oh, I think they got the timeout. Did they get the timeout off? Or oh, they did. Oh, nice. I think they got the timeout call. If you're a Commanders fan, John Hussey to the rescue. Am I right?
I definitely want. I so badly want 2 2020 ties because then I believe it would be the first 2 teams in NFL history to have two ties. right? And
I think
then
so too.
now I don't know if the NFL will do this, but if it does happen, we collectively as fans, because if you have two ties, that basically means you went 1-1 in the two games.
Yeah.
The NFL should just take out the ties and add a win and a loss to each team's record. That makes it nice and clean and easy for everybody.
So then both teams would be 8-6.
Yes, both teams would be 8-6. They each get a win and they each get a loss. Because if you have two ties, in theory, what you're saying, because a tie is half a win and half a loss, so two ties is a win and a loss. And isn't 8-6? Isn't 8-6 a lot cleaner than 7-5-2?
Oh God, yeah.
No,
I know.
oh man, how did he not get there?
I think Thibodeau shut him down.
The clock too. Oh, hold on, you're ahead of me, but yeah, they won.
I think Thibodeau shut him down at the line. Why are you calling a timeout if you're why are the Giants burning their timeouts like this?
Because they want time to drive down and kick a field goal.
Oh, okay. Was that who was? Oh, Thibodeau was right there. I think he was trying to get out of bounds.
It was a good call by the refs.
Yeah, you know what? I know I said I was kind of pissed about getting flexed, but it ended up being for the good podcast, even though we've kind of gone on and off and we're kind of half distracted right now. But
I mean,
Daniel Jones. I remember I got asked one time, why are you podcasting a Giants game with a Dolphins fan? And I was like, it's a joke gimmick we started 2 years ago, and it's just carried onward.
And here, because of moments like this,
yes,
and down to the wire, potentially another 2020 tie. Like, this is the drama we live for in America.
Yes. I still remember the first ever moment with this. I will never forget it. Was Daniel Jones's crazy run against the Eagles, Thursday Night Football 2020. It was something to remember. Back in the Skype podcasting days, and now look at me, paying the money for StreamYard and having these beautiful graphics and all this fun gizmos and gadgets and stuff. I've come a long way.
200 episodes, man.
That's the other thing. This started as a fun thing I did it was Britton Harrison on episode number 1 all that time ago. And now, like I said, gotten to meet many people. Now I like you and I kind of reconnected us, other people. It's crazy as we're killing time when they look. What are they reviewing here?
They're reviewing whether or not he was out of bounds on his own or whether he was forced out. Yeah,
okay.
to wind the clock. Because if the clock doesn't need to be wound down, then the Giants get their second timeout back.
Oh, okay. I love how you just shoot the camera away there. Let's see what happens here. I'm reading John Hussey's lips. I can't really make it out though.
High quality television we got going on here.
Yeah. High quality podcasting. Oh, yeah, so
they put the time back on the clock and the Giants get the timeout back.
Yeah. But I'll say this right now, though. If the Commanders were to tie it up, I think we can learn a lot about Daniel Jones if he's able to lead them down to get a game-winning field goal.
Yeah, and I saw Chris Collinsworth was saying before the game that this could be a moment where Daniel Jones shows his worth as a franchise quarterback. And part of me wondered, they meet with the coaches and GMs before these primetime games. I wonder if some of that came from the Giants organization.
That must have, because I feel like Joe Shane has faith in Daniel Jones. I think it's just this is the year where it's really it's his fourth year. It's the prove it year. It's the, you got to go out there and do it. You got to go and do your own. Let's see.
I thought he got in personally.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Do the dance, baby. False start. Throw the hanky out.
Is it third down still? Because that's a big deal. Oh, no, it's legal formation.
Oh, no, it was false start, no?
It says illegal. Well, I mean, same thing. It says illegal formation.
Well, they're doing the false start movement. That's why I asked.
What's the illegal formation?
But even still, was he?
Was he in? I thought he was.
You're going to see it in a sec. You're going to see it in a second.
He was in.
Yeah. Okay, you got to throw it here. What Jordans does he buy if they win?
I think I think he said that when they tied, he didn't buy them, or he bought neutral colors or something like that. So I think now he'd buy the G-Man colors, like blue or white or something like that.
Here it comes, folks. Here's the game.
4th down.
4th and goal. 56 seconds left on the clock. I still think Daniel Jones gets franchised. I don't think he gets a long-term extension next year. Oh, Lucas got beat. Let's see. Oh yeah. Lucas just gave up there and let Ojolari go.
Yeah, I think he gets franchise tag too. I think that's the right call.
Yeah.
They're in a tough spot because he's definitely gotten better. He's not as bad as he used to be, but he's still not a top 10 quarterback. So you're kind of in this weird limbo where you don't really know what to do. Step up in the pocket, dude. Ball game.
We have our first ever Danny Dimes primetime win, and our first ever Danny Dimes in primetime win, because every game we've done, they've lost. I remember they had. Okay, I don't know why Kayvon Thibodeau's crying, but okay, whatever.
Hopefully,
I still think there's a chance. What?
I said, hopefully he's not hurt.
Let's hope not.
Why did
he's going to find it? No one. He couldn't step out of the pocket.
No one's open.
McLaurin was more open than Samuel was, though. Like, let's just see the replay right here.
Yeah, I did.
As McLaurin realizes, oh, hey, I'm going to go over here. You could have had the ball roll out to McLaurin, but no.
I wonder if we see Carson Wentz again.
I think if they get smoked by San Francisco, yes. But if not, then no. But we'll have to wait and see. As he was draped all over him, but that's going to do it.
That was arguably PI.
Yeah, you could argue PI. I feel like sometimes, though, in those moments, and like refs really hold the handkerchiefs.
Whistle.
Yeah, what the fuck happened to Thibodeau there, though? I'm trying to figure that out.
Maybe he was just emotional to win the game.
Yeah, no, the medical team was looking at him. They just showed it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you could have really argued PI there on. You really could argue PI there, but we're not going to do that. But I think what we're going to love Julian Love in the backfield. But anyway, folks, I think that's going to do it. 200 in the bag. Look at us. 200 in the bag.
And we finally got a Daniel Dimes primetime win. It took 200 episodes.
He's like, these guys are doing episode 200. We're going to make it special for them. It's going to be good. This, for the Giants, though, as an organization, is a feel-good win. This is a good win for them.
It is.
But now it's kind of like, how do you build on it? I know we always try to find like those negative attachments to the Giants, but that's how I look at it. Where do you go from here if you're the New York Giants?
And look, the Giants might get lucky, even if they lose to the Vikings and if they lose to whoever they play after
Colts and Eagles.
Colts. Oh, it's Colts? Okay. I think the Giants are probably going to be in the playoffs because I think they're either going to beat the Colts or they're going to play the Eagles when the Eagles rest everybody.
Yeah.
And that would leave the Giants. Let's say the Giants only win one more game. They go 1-2 down the stretch. That means the Giants finish 9-7-1.
Yes.
And if you finish 9-7-1, you're going to finish ahead of all those 9-8 teams, which include the Packers, which could be the Lions if the Lions lose a game, and the Seahawks if they lose a game. They'll already have 8 losses. So being 9-7-1, I think, would be a big advantage.
The only big thing too with the Giants is, well, the one thing with the Giants of those two teams is, remember, the Seahawks and the Lions beat both of them, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. But now for everything, it's just time's going to tell. And one more thing before we get out of here tomorrow night, I'm going to say this. I know we talked about this on Sunday night, but as someone is trying to make her way onto the podcast.
Aww.
Yes, this is Princess. She's not exactly camera shy, but she's decided to come here. I'm gonna.
Does she also like Packers -7?
Packers -7 or Rams -7? What do you think? Rams. She said Rams +7.
Well, I would say the side on this one for me is pretty hard. But what I will say is the over. I like the over here. I think the Packers can score like 20 points. I think the Packers are probably going to score 24. and the Rams are probably going to score 20, maybe 21, maybe 17 or something like that. 24-17 gets the over on this number. So, yeah, I like the over.
Give me 21 to 20. Give me 24 to 21 Packers. I think
Yeah.
it's a close-fought game where, Aaron Rodgers leads like one of his historic
It's in Lambeau, too. Yeah.
Exactly. Lambeau on a Monday night. Doesn't get better than that. That's all I got to say. But anyway, Big Rat, thank you very much for being on here. We'll have to do it again soon. Definitely week 18, when you and Danny get to bitch at each other and you guys get to exchange shots in person, not on Twitter. But anyway, my friend, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I'm sure we'll be talking all throughout there, but I don't know if we'll be able to talk like this before the New Year, so I just wanted to say that.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Appreciate it. But anyway, folks, 200 in the bag. Whenever Daniel Dimes is on Primetime, you know where to find the two of us. Hopefully they put Giants-Eagles on Primetime because you never know what can happen in the NFL. But anyway, folks, that's going to do it. 200 in the bag. Here's the 200 more. I'll see you guys next time on YWC Football Talk.